Thanks so much for joining us here on the CBN News Channel. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Israel. The U.S. announced the resumption of Israeli-Palestinian talks Sunday after years of stalemate. But the new step has already come with a high price for Israel. And it's still doubtful that either side is willing to budge on major issues like dividing Jerusalem. Dale Hurd has the story.
The peace talks could only happen after Israel's cabinet gave in to American pressure to release 104 Palestinian prisoners convicted of killing Israelis. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "This is not an easy moment for me, but there are moments when I need to make tough decisions for the good of the country, and this is one of those moments." Other Israeli cabinet members agreed.
Everybody feels bad about the idea of releasing the prisoners because this is a bunch of really hideous people with a terrible history, but we have to do what we have to do in order to make the peace process progress.
On the Palestinian side, the move was met with immediate distrust.
We think this is an act of blackmail, that their release will be used as an instrument of blackmailing the Palestinian negotiating team.
The return to direct contacts between the two sides gave U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry his first concrete achievement after months of shuttle diplomacy. But hundreds of Israelis who lost loved ones in Palestinian terrorist attacks protested outside the government complex.
It's a shame to the American nation that Kerry is making his career on the back of the families who lost a loved one.
The U.S. said preliminary peace talks would begin today, but it remains unclear whether they'll lead to a formal resumption of peace talks that broke down in 2008. At the heart of the stalemate, Jerusalem. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Jerusalem will never be divided. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said there can be no agreement without a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem, home to the Temple Mount. Analysts warn the talks will fail if Jerusalem is not resolved. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
At least 83 supporters of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi were killed this weekend in clashes with police. It was the worst bloodshed since he was removed at the beginning of this month. Morsi supporters say they will continue to take to the streets until he is reinstated. The U.S. is closely watching the steps being taken by its biggest Arab ally.
What we hope happens is the secular political movement has an opportunity to take root, which is exactly what didn't happen, and there was candidly no U.S. influence used there. We've got to try to calm things down. It's to the benefit of the entire region and world and the United States' interest to have a calm and a sustained, I think, democracy grow in Egypt.
The European Union called for a rapid move to an inclusive transformation process.
The NSA's secret surveillance programs allowed even low-level analysts to search the private emails and phone calls of Americans. That's the latest word from the reporter who first broke the story. In a weekend interview, Glenn Greenwald told ABC News that NSA employees could search its database and then listen to the calls or read the emails of everything that the NSA has stored. Such regulations continue to outrage members of the Senate.
The NSA is literally collecting every phone record of every American every day. And look, the content of those phone calls is not available, but I think knowing when I call somebody, from where I call somebody, and for how long I call somebody is a violation of your privacy. There are apps that you can get on your smartphone or your smart tablet or your computer, Bob, that can take that phone data and give a pretty good impression of what you do during your daily activities. To me, that is a violation of Americans' privacy.
NSA officials are scheduled to testify before the Senate on Wednesday.
The government wants major internet companies to turn over your computer password and the passwords of millions of Americans. CNETnews.com reports the move represents a step up in surveillance techniques. If the government has your password, it can be used to log into your account, review your personal information and correspondence, or even impersonate you. Many internet companies have flatly refused the government's demands for passwords and other ways to get into personal accounts.
After a nationally publicized showdown in Texas, North Carolina has also passed new restrictions on its abortion clinics. Those two major developments highlight a big trend in America's abortion battle. Public attitudes have been shifting in a pro-life direction. Heather Sells has more.
The Texas battle to ban abortion at 20 weeks is now a talking point for politicians testing the presidential waters. CBN News obtained exclusive access to a recent gathering of Iowa pastors and found this: Senator Ted Cruz firing up the audience with his take on the Lone Star Showdown.
I'll tell you, the pro-life protesters came to the Capitol. They were arm in arm, singing Amazing Grace. And the pro-abortion protesters responded by chanting, "Hail Satan." You can't make this stuff up.
Libertarian Rand Paul was quick to point out his pro-life position as well.
Because you are committing a violence, and there is a role for government to stop violence.
The Texas bill not only banned abortions after 20 weeks, it upgraded requirements for abortion clinics, and 4 now say they'll close. North Carolina also increased its standards for clinics. So far this year, state lawmakers have passed more than 50 laws restricting abortion. That number pales in comparison to 2011, when lawmakers passed 92. But both sides agree the laws passed this year are more powerful, like in North Dakota and Kansas, which banned abortion on the basis of gender. Public sentiment now appears to support these efforts more than ever. A Washington Post ABC News poll out shows the majority of Americans, 56%, support restricting abortion after 20 weeks. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Extreme weather over the weekend brought flooding to at least 9 states. North Carolina is cleaning up after getting more than a foot of rain in less than 24 hours. Police report that at least 2 people are dead. A 48-year-old man and a 10-year-old girl both swept away by the floodwaters.
Once they got in the water, they weren't in for just a few seconds, and the current was so strong that it swept them away.
In New Jersey, rivers flooded near several major highways, forcing police to block off lanes. Meanwhile, Hawaii is bracing itself as a tropical storm moves through the Pacific, aiming straight for the island chain. Hawaii hasn't been hit by a big storm since 1992.
An Indianapolis church is mourning after a devastating bus crash over the weekend. 37 people were traveling home from a Michigan camp when the brakes failed on their bus only a mile away from home. It slammed into a barrier and flipped onto its side. The youth pastor, his pregnant wife, and a congregation member were killed. 7 teens remain hospitalized and 1 is in critical condition.
Nearly 4 months after his son's suicide, Pastor Rick Warren returned to the pulpit this weekend. Saturday, Warren and his wife, Kay, were greeted with a long-standing ovation at Saddleback Church in Lake Forest, California. He delivered a sermon called "How to Get Through What You're Going Through." Warren often broke off to talk frankly about his son. In April, his 27-year-old son, Matthew, took his own life after a battle with mental illness. Warren choked back tears at times, and he thanked the congregation for their love, support, and prayers.
In the middle of 4 months, 16 weeks, a third of this year, in the middle of all of that intense pain, Kay and I have felt the favor of God because of your prayers. And we intend to spend the rest of our lives comforting others with the comfort that we ourselves have been given by God.
On his Facebook page, Warren wrote, "This was the longest he had ever gone without preaching."
Coming up, changing our light bulbs can save polar bears, and driving electric cars can keep the seas from rising. We'll expose the mad, mad world of climatism when we come back.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 U.S. gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Doomsdayers are saying we're headed for a worldwide catastrophe because of global warming.
And some scientists agree, saying that humans are to blame. But author Steve Gorham says it's just not true.
Climatism is the belief that man-made greenhouse gases are wreaking havoc with the climate and destroying the planet. Climatists say the gases from industry are warming the Earth so much that the ice caps are melting, the oceans are rising, and the polar bears are threatened with extinction. If there's a heat wave, a cold snap, stronger than usual hurricanes, droughts, or floods, the climatists say it's all because of man-made climate change. And they say if we don't curb our evil, carbon-emitting ways, the Earth is doomed. But Steve Gorham says, not so fast. The environmental researcher and author of The Mad, Mad, Mad World of Climatism says that science points to natural factors, not human activity, as the cause of global warming. And he calls climatism the greatest global delusion in history.
Author and environmental researcher Steve Gorham joins us right here now in studio. Well, Steve, it's as if scientists have rejected the evidence when it comes to climate change. How did this happen?
Great to join you this morning, Ephraim. Well, I like to say the world jumped to a conclusion. Back in 1988, Dr. James Hansen, a scientist at NASA, came before Congress. He said he was 99% certain the Earth was warming and mankind was causing it. That very same year, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change formed the United Nations formed the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And then just 3 years later, at the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, 41 nations signed a treaty saying they would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Many other scientists at the time said, well, we just don't know enough about the climate. But they've been arguing now for the last 20 years about how much to reduce emissions and when, and more evidence shows that man-made influences are very small.
Wow. Hurricane Sandy was a late season storm. Experts blamed it on global warming. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, that's hard to agree with. It was a very special hurricane. Normally they head out into the Atlantic, but this one ran into a high pressure in the Atlantic, came back and made a direct hit on New York City. But we've had 170 hurricanes make landfall in the United States during the 20th century. 59 of those were Category 3 or stronger winds. Hurricane Sandy was only Category 1. So it's hard to see how a single Category 1 hurricane is evidence of man-made climate change.
Wow. Why do you say it's a myth that the current warming trend is abnormal?
Well, we've had warmer times in the past. The Romans about 2,000 years ago wore those little skirts, and you could grow olives in Bonn, Germany, and wine in England. And then about 1,000 years ago, the Vikings settled southwest Greenland. They also went to Newfoundland, and they named it Vinland for the vines that grew there. So we've had warmer periods in the past, and the 1 degree warming we've had in the last 130 years is really not abnormal.
Wow. Now, you also say that it's a myth that carbon dioxide drives the Earth's climate. Why?
Yeah, if you break things down, carbon dioxide is a trace gas. Only about 4 molecules in every 10,000 in our atmosphere are carbon dioxide. The amount that man could have added is about 1 molecule of those 10,000, very small. And the greenhouse effect, the idea that greenhouse gases are trapping heat in our atmosphere, if you break down the greenhouse effect, you find that first, Earth's most abundant greenhouse gas is water vapor, not carbon dioxide, not methane. And then if you look at the amount of carbon dioxide and methane that mankind contributes, it's only about 4% of the rest of the greenhouse effect. So when you add all that up, only 1 part in 100 of the greenhouse effect is due to man-made emissions. So if we completely eliminated all emissions, we probably couldn't tell the difference in global temperatures.
Wow, wow, makes a lot of sense. What about the ice caps melting, the seas rising, and the polar bears disappearing? Is any of that true, and should we be concerned?
Well, that's a lot of questions there. The ice caps, it is true that Arctic ice is melting. It's at a 30-year low. But what you don't hear about in the news media is that Antarctic ice is at a 30-year high, and that's 90% of Earth's ice. Polar bears are thriving. There are about 25,000 polar bears on Earth today, more than double the number that was there in the 1960s, and they don't seem to be affected by the declining Arctic ice. And so these are natural effects that the Earth goes through, natural climatic trends. And the idea that we are causing these is really a stretch.
Very, very enlightening conversation. Thank you so much. Once again, the book is The Mad, Mad World of Climatism. It is available at Amazon.com and at Steve Gordon's website. We've got a link to that at our website. Steve, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ephraim.
Much appreciated.
Up next, the murder that sparked the civil rights movement. More than 50 years later, the victim's cousin speaks out.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
A hero of the historic Emmett Till trial has passed away. Willie Reed died last week at the age of 76. He was just 18 when he risked his life to testify in the case that ignited the civil rights movement.
It happened back in 1955 when 14-year-old Emmett Till was kidnapped and murdered in Mississippi. His killers were never convicted. Emmett's younger cousin, Simeon, saw the kidnapping, and as he told me, it took him a long time to be able to forgive. Isaiah 11:6 reads, "A little child will lead them." And in some ways, that is the story of the fight against racism in America.
We were not going to take segregated buses any longer.
It was a child who inspired Rosa Parks when she refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Alabama, December 1st, 1955. That child was Emmett Till, a 14-year-old Chicago boy who made headlines only 4 months earlier. He was kidnapped and lynched while visiting family in Mississippi.
At the age of 12, could you imagine going to sleep at night and wake up the next door, your whole world is upside down?
Emmett was visiting his cousin Simeon Wright that summer. They were sleeping in the same room when two men showed up at the Wright family's home.
See, when they awakened Wheeler, they said, this is the wrong boy. We're looking for the fat boy from Chicago. And they knew who they were looking for. At that time, I weighed about 90 pounds, and Emmett weighed about 140.
They were J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant. Bryant owned the country store where Emmett and his cousins had stopped to buy candy just a few days earlier.
Well, Emmett and I, we had walked out. We was in the store together. We had walked out of the store, and Mrs. Bryant came out behind us, and she was walking towards a car, and then Emmett whistled at her, and it scared us half to death.
The whistle at Carolyn Bryant, Roy Bryant's wife, was a joke to the 14-year-old from Chicago, who was always trying to make his cousins laugh. He didn't understand the unspoken rules of the segregated South.
Color didn't mean anything to him. I mean, you're a human being. We're all the same. So he grew up like that.
Emmett Till's family called him Bobo, and this is what he looked like before August 28, 1955. Simeon describes that day as the longest day of his life, and the first day there was no laughter in his childhood home. Emmett's body was found 3 days later in the Tallahatchie River. It was tied to a cotton gin.
The body was so badly damaged that we couldn't hardly just tell who he was, but he happened to have on a ring with his initials.
Simeon's father identified the body before it was sent to Emmett's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, in Chicago.
I didn't see the ear. Where's the ear? And that's when I discovered a hole about here, and I could see daylight on the other side.
Mrs. Mobley wanted the world to see what she saw. She left her son's casket open at the funeral for the thousands who came. Even more would see his face on the cover of Jet magazine, where 12-year-old Simeon saw it for the first time.
At 12, I know I didn't understand it all, but I understood what I saw. I saw the injustices that took place, and it affected me.
It's taken more than 50 years for him to talk about his cousin's death. He shares his pain in the book Simeon's Story, the very first eyewitness account of Emmett Till's kidnapping.
I was enraged and embittered by the verdict. I saw for the first time the evil that was in the heart of the segregationists.
The all-white jury found J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant not guilty in the murder trial, and there was never a trial for the kidnapping.
I was angry, yes, because of what happened. Because the justice system in Mississippi failed us. Our neighbors failed us. Leaving that trial, looking back at the white population rejoicing because these men was acquitted. I had the thought in my head, I said, we had no one to help us.
Did you hate those white men?
I don't think I know how to hate, but I wanted to get even. I wanted the revenge.
Simeon and his family moved from Mississippi to Chicago not long after the trial, but the distance could not erase his anger.
If I was provoked, we'd try to get even. Now, I remember one case, there was a young lady in my classroom. She was from Alabama, and she did something, nothing serious, and I think I slapped her.
He turned to alcohol early in his adulthood until something unexpected happened one night at a Chicago bar.
At age 22, God forgave me of my sins. That's what changed me, really. When I was sitting in this tavern, and I heard the voice of the Lord said, if you die in your sins, you're going to hell. And man, I tell you, my life wasn't the same again.
That voice inspired him to forgive the men responsible for the death of his cousin.
Needless to say, the death of Bobo and the acquittal of his murderers left the hole in my heart.
How did you learn to forgive them?
Forgiveness is something, it's not easy. Just because I said that, it wasn't an easy process. It's a process that you have to, it's an act of your will, you have to do it and then fight through it. And then the deliverance comes.
At 67, Simeon says he has also forgiven Carolyn Bryant, the woman who testified Emmett did much more than just whistle. She is Emmett's only surviving accuser.
I feel if I met her, she probably could repent of what she did. I think she want to, but she probably don't know how.
Simeon says he'd like to meet her and show her how.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah, Simeon is an amazing man and an amazing man of forgiveness, and he continues to share that story with young people. That book was written specifically for young people to deal with some of the anger that they're feeling.
Excellent.
Indeed,
Excellent role model.
Indeed he is.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Residents of the town of West Texas, the site of a massive fertilizer plant explosion last April, got some relief at the pump.
The Soupmobile, a Dallas-based nonprofit, decided to help them in an unusual way.
Well, West went through a lot of bad times and still are, but it's great that y'all come by and doing this. It helps people out a lot.
The Soupmobile gave $20 worth of free gas to each vehicle that showed up at a local gas station during a 3-hour period.
The Soupmobile brought the group down to let people know we hadn't forgotten about them and to try to remind other people that they're still here and there's still needs.
Definitely. The organization gave out free gas in April and hopes to do it again before the end of this year. God bless them. They are good Samaritans.
Beautiful. You are not forgotten.
That's right. Well, that's going to do it for now on the CBN News Channel. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Have a marvelous Monday, everybody.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible. all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.